The Genesis simulation, a artificial world divided into 5 biomes, each unique and deadly in their own ways. But the simulation got corrupted by the evil Master Controller, and I have exactly 100 days to beat all required missions, challenge this wicked mastermind and take him down for good. Luckily, my robotic companion HLNA was able to hack the system and made a bunch of unknown monstrosities, friendly critters, and freaky fellows show up to either aid me in my journey or be the bane of my very existence. After some small talk with HLNA, I got teleported into the luminous bog biome. I simply picked up some fiber, punched trees and gathered stone to make some starter tools. And had to be on constant lookout for vicious carnivores who might want a piece of me. I also crafted a mini-meat chibi to join my journey. I made some spears for protection, came across a friendly Scorpiovenator, but I wasn't the right level to tame one yet, so I looked around even more. But later climbed up the roots of this big old tree, found some crystal and even metal inside of it. While I was standing on the cliffside of my tree, a Sarco spotted me, so I gave it a little acupuncture treatment. I settled down inside of the tree where I grilled some meat, simply gathered even more resources, and lastly built a small, cozy thatch hut and placed a modern pestle inside. I had to get rid of yet another Sarco on my property. Crafted some narcotics and more chibis since they gave me a good amount of XP. And trust me, I did this many times over and over again. After some chibi making, I was able to unlock and even craft a forge to finally smelt metal, which I used to craft a smithy, upgrade to metal tools, hit the metal nodes, made a crossbow in order to kill a low-level Scorpiovenator for more height. I got surprised by not one but 2 insect swarms while gathering height and making ammo. I also spotted and tried to knock out a Labyrinthodontia with the few trinks I had, but sadly it didn't work out as planned. Stupid X-creature resistance. So the next day I spotted a max level Scorpiovenator and I knew that this lady would be a perfect mount for now. So I killed a stego for some high quality flesh, carefully crossed the water to reach this insect-hating carnivore, gave her 1 piece of meat, ran back home to gather, prepare and level, whilst waiting for the carnivore to get hungry again, killed another stego for even more prime meat, sadly didn't receive any whatsoever. Once returned to the Scorpio, I continued the taming. Once tamed, I was able to mount her without a saddle. She was pretty strong and her main aspect was to kill insects, gaining a damage and speed increase. And being able to turn chitin into cementing paste, I named her Munchie, but gave her a saddle for some extra protection as well. Thanks to Munchie, exploring this dark wetland was child's play, whilst using her incredible damage to harvest height, meat, etc. in large quantities, and after a little level and resource run, teleported to the ocean. Why? Binturongs and red pandas, that's why. The Binturong being able to starve wild critters a lot faster, and the red panda constantly healing me, made them a must in this playthrough. I named the red panda Kitty Cat and the Binturong Meatball. Back in the bog, I ran around pretty much aimlessly, killing more critters, fixing glitches, and killing 2 X-Dinochirus. On day 5, I walked a long way through the swamp to reach the Dodo Ball mission terminal, which I finished on all 3 difficulties with ease. The loot I obtained from this mission was kinda disappointing, not gonna lie. Anywho, on the way back home, I spotted a high-level female and male Chunkingosaurus. And these highly defensive, imposing herbivores would be pretty good to have for other biomes. So I started to passively feed the female. Thanks to Meatball, her food drained a lot faster. But before she was fully tamed, I had to deal with another Dinochirus. But this one nearly killed Munchie. With Venom in our arsenal, we not only had an incredible good berry harvester, but also the kind of mount no one could really touch thanks to their unique Venom. I also crafted myself way better armor, a I made even more tranks and some structures for an easy taming trap, since I wanted a Stygian Moloch for metal harvesting. So it was time to teleport to the fiery volcano for the first time. Once arrived, I was burning up thanks to the heat and dodged massive magma source. Spotted a nice level Stygie pretty close by, placed the trap, knocked her out and fed her some berries. Settled her up upon tame and gathered a bunch of metal and obsidian as well as anthracite, which has the same use as charcoal. Day 7 I was ready for another mission, so I wanted to do the Borg Fission one. On the way towards the terminal, however, I came across a high level male Scorpio, which I started taming. Continued my walk to the terminal, but there I spotted a level 174 saltwater crocodile, and this gruesome crocodilian would be a really good amphibious mount for the ocean. I ran back to base, tamed up the Scorpio on the way there, made some stone gates and went back to the Salty. Once there I realized I couldn't build here, so I had to let her chase me, trapped her fully and tranked her out. She finally fell asleep, I gave her food and she obtained the very creative name Salty once tamed. Since I was still around these parts, I did the mission King of Swing, where you have to swing through these blue circles. And this mission was so much fun, not even gonna lie. I finished this mission on Gamma, Beta and just barely on Alpha. The loot from this mission was not half bad actually. Back home I went on a little test drive with Salty. She was pretty strong and fast on both land and water. Afterwards, I collected some wood and built a small crafting area in the corner of my tree. Day 9 started with some early morning berry farming, followed by a quick teleport to get some easy oil. While dodging various creatures, I finally found a level 174 thorny dragon, exactly what I've been looking for. Once trapped, I tranked him, but I had to evacuate since a Rex and a Magmasaur showed up. I lured both of them away, returned to the lizard and named him Paincone. After that I explored the biome a bit more, killed a couple more insects. Once I bought some clay from HLNA, I was able to harvest a buttload of wood with Paincone. I wanted to make a generator but needed some electronics, so to get some easily I went to the lunar biome, a broken moon, home to space whales and robotic dinos, which are quite useful actually. Once teleported, I started to slaughter every critter in my way. Tech dinos not only give you metal, but also oil and electronics. After a bit of fun, I went back to the Borg, made a generator and headed back to tame the level 180 male chunking. Mid-tame, however, I made a nanny and bred up the Scorpios. The baby didn't have the good stats, but I kept her anyway. Finally, at the end of this day, tamed the male chunking. Of course they started breeding right away, and while hatching the first stack I have unlocked and made a much needed oil pump. After some more hatching and killing I finally obtained the male chunking with all the good stats. And halfway through the day I got a female good stat chunking. I let them grow up, grabbed my Stygie, went to the scorching volcano once more to place the oil pump, and simply gathered a bunch of metal and other minerals for the rest of this day. In the early morning of day 12, my two chunkings were fully grown and ready to mate. The baby hatched from this egg was named Thorn. I jumped on Salty and teleported to the ocean while Thorn was growing up. I headed straight to the Wave Race terminal, an easy mission where you have to race around obstacles on a manta ray. I finished this mission on all 3 levels, but whilst swimming through the sea, this happened. I lost connection to the server, and this happened a lot before I even started this whole 100 days. Of course I drowned and made my way back to Salty using a simple raft. Luckily Kitty Cat wasn't a soulball this whole time. And once back in the Borg, Thorn was fully grown and ready for a test run. His damage and venom was no joke. Now thanks to the mighty defense of Thorn, I was more than capable of walking through the volcano without a worry in the world. And whilst under his protection I headbutted metal nodes, obsidian rocks, crystal and gem formations for required minerals. Facing the aggressive carnivores here and there, but everything was fine until the volcano erupted, so I had to seek shelter to teleport back home. There I smelted the metal and made a harpoon launcher, as well as some net projectiles to ease taming. Day 14 I teleported to the freezing snow biome for the very first time. There I wandered around in the hope to find an Australovenator to tame for harvesting organic polymer. Sadly, I found none of those, but some penguins which I tried to tame with a crossbow. Surprise! It doesn't work. So instead I did the ice fishing mission, which was very boring, so I only did it on Gamma. Afterwards I legally took the items from the friendly beavers and ran away. I also tried to tame a low-level Yudi for kibble later, but he got out. So I continued my journey where I got surprised by my favorite creature in Ark, a Microraptor. Thorn, would you be so kind? New day, new adventure. I crafted myself a long neck alongside normal and trank ammo, headed to the volcano to tame a Phosphado Draco, and found a really good level one. After clearing the area a bit from hostiles, I netted him down, placed the trap on top, and slowly knocked him out. Once tamed, I picked him up and wanted to check out my oil pump, but had to fight 2 Rexes to get to it. I settled him up and he was able to breathe very weak fire as long as he got sulfur. But the main reasons I tamed one was for flight and the fact that he could gather minerals. I headed back to the lunar biome to kill all robots for their lovely materials. While I was getting a cool scene, I got surprised by a meteor shower, so I headed back as fast as possible. I then jumped on my phosphor, went to the snow biome, and there I trapped and tranked a level 174 Mega Sloth to increase my chitin harvesting. While he was slowly taming up, I did the Rhino race mission on Gamma and Beta only, because I got stuck quite often. Here's the loot I've got, 2 tech swords which I can't use, and at the end of the day the Megatherium was mine and I named him Chonker. Day 17 was pretty unproductive. All I really did was making an upgrade station to grind the bad mission loot. I'll only be allowed to upgrade my gear after day 50. I was also flying around the snow, volcano and bog biome and looked at critters that I might want at one point. And inside of the bog I spotted a pretty high level Snallygaster, a weird bird and draconic-like cryptid that would be an even better flyer, but I needed unfiltered beer to tame. So the very next day I made 2 beer barrels and a small platform to place them on, and connected the barrels with the water outside. I also placed some crop plots, collected some seeds for this future greenhouse, and lastly picked some things from those poisonous bog trees, since they gave me sap which I needed to make unfiltered beer. I needed chitin for cementing paste, so back to the volcano I go and collected as much chitin as possible. Inside the fiery mountain I saw a Nigerian fire spitter, and for those that watched my Aberration 100 Days, you probably recognize these. Anyway, after collecting a good amount of chitin, I was bold enough to start my very first brute mission, Kingslayer on Gamma. Here I had to follow some footprints and fight against an oversized Rex in 3 stages. Was it easy? Hell yeah! Was the loot any good? Hell no. So I grinded most of it and finished the greenhouse as well. I was able to get some beer which I turned into Snally's taming food and then headed out into the bog to find the high level one again. But I basically wasted this entire day. I didn't found a single Snally that day. So towards the night I collected some more metal, that's about it. But I didn't stop my search for those psycho birds. And after a little search on top of the massive mighty bog trees, I spotted one. I netted him down, pummeled him with darts. He managed to break free, so I chased him for a bit, netted him a second time, knocked him out, gave him the beer, and boom, tamed. He was a funny and loud critter, but he was able to breathe fire, capable of grabbing smaller dinos to either rip them to shreds or devour them entirely. Time for a female Snally, wouldn't you agree? And after a really long search, I found a female one, which I trained as well. But once asleep, I realized I forgot the damn taming food, so I quickly flew back home, grabbed the beer, and back to the lady Snally. Only problem, the torpor drains quite fast. Maybe I should have actually teleported. But anyway. At home I set up the breeding area, made some air cons to speed up the egg hatching, and the soul terminal will pick up all the babies. Luckily only the father had the good stats, which made the whole breeding a lot easier. I also went to the snow again and tamed a breeding pair of penguins to farm organic polymer. I tamed 2 scorpions for a chitin farm and even got a female Snally with all the good stats. Afterwards I tested my luck on the bog beatdown mission, where I had to fight hordes of nasty fellas while being provided with infinite weapons and ammo. It went pretty well, but my character decided to take a nap at the worst time. Still got my stuff back thanks to the gravestone. Day 24 I replaced the original female Snelly with the good stat one and let her breed until I got a Snelly for my own uses. I named him Garuga since I love Monster Hunter and it kinda fits. He's a bird-like wyvern with fire breath and toxins in his tail. I also tried Borg Beatdown a second time. Having stimberries in my hotbar made it a lot easier. I even made it to the final stage where the broodmother appeared. I almost made it, but I got stuck and my ass beaten. I was somewhat embarrassed, actually. So the next morning I gathered more poly from the penguins and even tamed a low-level Labyrinthodontia. Why? Because these goofballs actually generate polymer in the inventory. Sure, only 10 at max, but poly is poly. I didn't do much else besides looking for modded alpha dino, since their loot was way better, but I couldn't find any. So instead, I did the Borg rally mission on Gamma and Beta. At least I got a better ghillie chest piece from that. I kept on looking for an AC2 alpha dino and found an alpha dino Kairos. So I cinched its feathers a bit, but of course I got hauled off from a bloodstalker and fell to the ground pretty close to the alpha. After Garuga got rid of this stupid insect, we were able to crawl into a small tree hole where I was able to hit the alpha easily. Of course it ran away at one point, so I tracked it down, but then I had to lure it somewhere else because of all these damn bloodstalkers in the trees.
Yeah, boy.
I shot them out of the trees until my goddamn rifle broke, so from here on, I quickly scooped in, hit the Dinokairos and managed to lure it to a safe spot, until it got stuck on a tree trunk where I was able to breathe fire upon it constantly. This hot action continued till the next morning. Once killed, I unlocked some tech grams and obtained a single loot crate, as well as some alpha blood. I opened it and, well, some element, veggie cakes, an ascendant saddle I won't use, but at least a really good hazard helmet. After that somewhat disappointing result, I did another easy mission on Gamma and Beta. I placed an S+ item collector in the hopes it would pick up the polymer from the labby. Spoiler, it doesn't work. I used the veggie cakes I got to tame 2 overs as well. Day 28, it was time to upgrade my house. I had to harvest a bunch of wood, thatch and stone, made a glyph platform which I attached to the tree, and from here on till day 30 I just focused on building this base. It wasn't the best looking base, but at least it looked better than most buildings of my buddy Natural Causes.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
So now it was time to get everything up here, including an industrial grill and forge that I've crafted, as well as generators, fridges, storage boxes, etc. Day 31 I realized I was still in big needs for electronics, but I didn't want it to enter the ocean for pearls. So instead I flew around the dark void, melting robotic rookies for easy electronics. Afterwards I was bold and stupid enough to try the Brood Raptor mission. Well, he knocked me off Garuga's back, pinned me to the ground and killed me. I then had to fly back to get Garuga and Kitty, but I still wanted to finish some missions, so I started another Borg hunt on Gamma. A simple quest where I had to pick up glowing points in different parts of the Borg. Gamma alone gave me a pretty neat shotgun. After grinding some of the useless items and organizing some more useful ones, I started the lovely mission just a hop, skip and a jump away. There I only had to follow a small frog, while packs of hungry swamp dwellers tried to take a bite out of it. But I didn't give them a chance, roasting them alive and biting them to death. Once reunited with its family, I looked upon the loot and I saw a slightly better long neck rifle. Now I was ready to make more ammo, turn those into tranks and later into improved trank darts. I also made the much needed chemistry bench. Then headed into the Borg again to find a Carcharodontosaurus from Monsters and More. A bloodthirsty, savage and ferocious carnivore. Which I indeed found. So of course I trapped her and then attacked her, since I had to beat her down to 20% of her max health to deal torpor. But she didn't want it to stay in the trap, so this taming turned into a wild goose chase to try and tame her. She even fell into a small cabin where I thought I had her until she did this.
Boy, what the fuck going on in Miami, bro? Boy, she would've got in there. No, shit, that shit just disappeared.
Well, this was a waste of time. So I went back home to make some behemoth stone gates. Flew around a bunch more until I found a level 180 Karka. I lured this one to the world border where the trap was waiting for him. Burned him down until he was ready to gain torpor. It took the entire rest of the day to knock him out. Because of that stupid X-creature resistance. I even had to use Pain Cone to fix my rifle, but I still managed to knock him out at the end of the day. Next day I prepared well enough to tame a female Karka, and after a decently long search I found one. Trapped her with ease, and then just pummeled tranks into her for the rest of the day. As soon as she fell to the ground, I gave her the raw mutton and flew around a bit, only to see a higher level female Karka. Thanks, game. Anywho, the one I knocked out was tamed, and once back home, it was time to combine their best stats. I watched for a little bit, then I grabbed Salty and teleported to the ocean to get silica pearls, but had a scuba tank with me just in case. I carefully swam around, picked up some pearls, and fought against some sharks. Everything looked good, but of course I still got disconnected. After I jumped back on the server, I collected a few more pearls and went back home. The following day, I wanted a cute little dire bear for easy honey harvesting. What seems like a simple task was made a bit complicated due to a damn Microraptor and 2 Theris. At least I managed to save Garuga and Kitty. Tamed up the bear and named her Betty. Whilst flying towards another mission terminal, I stumbled upon some walrus, and these fellas can harvest silica pearls. So I initiated the taming, and while he was chilling for a bit, I went up the mountain to beat Saber Slalom twice. Flew back to the walrus, tamed him up, and named him Joe. Back in the tree, I looked in the soul terminal and got a female Karka with the good stats. I started the next day slapping some beehives with Betty until I had enough honey for a domesticated beehive. But I realized I didn't have enough flowers. So I tried to collect some with Thorn, which didn't work. I then got an imprinted Karka which I named Morg. And he was a fun mount, having numerous attacks and entering a blood frenzy once he attacked enough. Also being capable of healing himself with his X attack. I went on a little killing spree in the volcano to level and heal him up. I then wanted to get myself a magma source, so of course I entered the fiery mountain, slaughtered, but also dodged magma source wherever I could, until I've reached the lowest level of the magma source den. There I realized I had no idea how to get an egg, since Morg could survive multiple fireballs. Only problem, they could also hit me. So I jumped on Garuga, checked out the nest and saw a level 174 egg. So I whistled Morg into the fiery pit to rip and tear these magma-breathing dragonkins. While he had some fun, I scooped in, grabbed the egg, balled up Morg and made it out of the volcano at the end of the day. While the egg was hatching, I needed some ambergris for the magmasaur just in case, so I went back to space, collected as much ambergris and apparently tungsten as I could, whilst disassembling robots left and right, until I saw something in the background that made me run as fast as I could. I do gotta say, these meteors are bright as hell. How great. Just lost 2 creatures and all the ambergris. I hatched another Karka, named him Nihil. Went to the lunar again. Gathered ambergris from scratch, fed it to the magmasaur, named her Obsidian, then tamed some more red pandas and bin trunks in the ocean and gathered a good amount of pearls with the help of Joe. Day 41 I tamed the Daedon the easy way and used this fella to heal up Obsidian and Nihil. Fully healed, it was time to start the real mineral frenzy with Obsidian. I truly love magmasaurs for this mechanic alone. After breaking minerals wherever I could, I placed her inside this tunnel and cleared the area to reach the terminal, to do one hell of a treasure hunt. In this one I had to walk a certain path, stop at checkpoints, fight hordes of dinos, till I reached a cave where I ripped off the skull of this alpha trike.
Hold on.
And then skedaddled my way to the finish line.
And what here?
And the loot was not half bad. I used some of the harvested resources to make an industrial cooker and connected that thing to the water as well. And then spent the rest of the day taming a damn Theri for rare flowers, only to get disappointed since I only got a few flowers even from the right plants. So the next day I said screw it and simply bought the rest of the plants required for the beehive. And then I did 3 missions for the rest of the day. The Brute mission Spy vs Spino, which I took down with ease. So I tried Beta, only to quickly turn around and disable the mission. So instead, I wiped the floor with a brute Sarco.
Prey 0.
And then protected a little frog once again, which gave me some good bows and an ocean platform. Day 44, I de-rooted some trees and crushed boulders into dust, using these items to build a simple yet much needed stone wall on the outside of my base. Since the tree got a bit too small for my uses, since I was at the world border, I only had to cover one side. Once everything was placed and done, I did another borg hunt on Alpha, with a very small time window to finish, but to my surprise, I got a much better shotgun from this. I then moved my entire breeding area outside and told the carcass to breed to hopefully get some mutations. Crafted a bunch of ammo, told the sheeps to breed as well, and I gotta say, carcass can harvest a good amount of mutton from the baby sheeps using the Shift C attack. I made some expensive drugged meat for later uses and got these items from Alpha Borg Hunt. I don't know why it took me till day 46 to paint my armor in my classic Ark Rector colors that you all know me for. If not, that probably means you're new to the channel. Welcome, it's awesome to have you here. If you enjoy this video so far and don't want to miss anything, consider to like and subscribe. Anyway, I spent the rest of the day in the tundra looking for low-level Utis to tame and get the highest quality eggs for kibble. Found and tamed a low-level male Uti, but then couldn't find a female one, but some nasty apex snow dwellers instead. I didn't continue my search for the screamy chickens immediately. Instead, I did this mission, where I had to protect a cute little baby Procoptodon from fluffy hostiles. Reunited with her marsupial mother, the two jumped away to safety, but left me with better flak gear. Oh, and also 5 to 10 hostile saddles that I couldn't even carry. Soon after, I tamed a female Uti and back at base, told them to lay eggs. I also grinded some sheeps for their flesh and hatched some more carcass for brood fights. The following day, I got surprised by a melee mutation on a carca. While he was growing up, I leveled the other carcass I hatched the other day, including knee heal a bit. I then made some extraordinary kibble using the Uti eggs, headed towards the snowy mountains where I could find a goonge catfish in one of the lakes. A massive, venomous river monster, which I tamed up. I even spotted one of opposite gender in the frozen lake further down, but needed more kibble for this one. So Utis, you know what that means. While they had their fun, I built a small staircase up the tree, made the last pieces of kibble and went back to the goonge. Small advice here, never stay close to an ice hole when a dead fish peeks its head out and you know there's a very hungry catfish underneath the ice. It mauled me to death in seconds. So I spawned back in the snow and made my way back to my stuff. And lastly, tamed up this female fish at the end of day 49. Ah, yes, I was finally allowed to upgrade my gear a bit. I then grabbed the ocean platform, paint cone and some other structures to make an ocean outpost for the goonches. Oh, and this carca can actually swim really damn well, by the way. I placed the ocean platform, got rid of some trees for wood, and placed everything down I brought with me. I then dealt with the great white shark, but it dismounted me and almost got rid of me. I hooked up the two goonches and gathered silica pearls with Joey, my chunky boy. Apparently the ocean doesn't like to crash me anymore, which is pretty neat. On day 51 I made a new generator and nanny for the ocean breeding pen. I also got surprised by my second damage as well as my first health mutation on the carcass. To actually stack mutations, I simply watched the guide from my buddy Cuddle Gaming. At the ocean I got a male baby goonge with all good stats. And remember this whole chitin farm project? Well, I scrapped that cause it was a bit disappointing, not gonna lie. Towards the end of this day I fought the brute Sarkon beta difficulty with my small carca hunting pack. These fellas just stunned him, ripped him to shreds and barely gave him any chance to fight back.
Hunter 1.
I didn't do much the other day besides adjusting the carca breeding corner with the freshly mutated ones, and also finished the roly-poly mission Gotta Go Fast on Gamma, Beta and Alpha.
No one's faster than you.
Easy mission, but of course nothing breathtaking in terms of loot. Next morning, me, Nihil and a lady carca tried just a hop, skip and a jump away on Alpha, but the enemy creatures took too little damage and dealt too much towards the fragile frog. So after that, I got my revenge on the brute raptor instead, just tearing his damn pack apart. Then I finished the Borg Rally race mission on Alpha twice. Around the evening I went back to my fish tank and finally got a female baby fish with the good stats. I got rid of some baby dinos to level myself and knee heal, and then started another race mission on the volcano, Dead Heat. Usually in a race you gotta be fast, but I had to be careful because of those toxic gas leaks. One of those nearly killed me since I forgot to bring a gas mask. After reaching the finish line on Gamma and Beta difficulty, I flew back to the sea and hatched a goonch for my own uses. He was named Beelzebub. I simply went on yet another resource run with obsidian to, well, primarily gather obsidian for later uses. Back in the sea, Beelzebub was fully grown. Ah yes, I already loved these guys in Aberration, you know. After I leveled him a bit too much into speed by accident, I dared to hunt down a massive white Lutictus. I followed its footprints, although it's a giant fish, so are those fin prints? I don't know, I don't question this. I stumbled upon the white giant, and it took a little while in all 3 stages of the mission, but he barely did any damage to me, so I see this as a win. After I took him down, I have to fight, or rather bully, his Bacillo friends. I also hatched more goonch babies at the end of the day. Made saddles for the new goonch squad as well as a CAA workstation, which allowed me to craft various unique items. Most of the day I leveled up the goonch squad with some carcass I brought with me. Near the end, I fought a massive plesiosaurus. He wasn't able to do much against me, neither could his megalodon pack in the final stage.
Now that's what I call a hunt.
In the morning of day 57 I wanted to take on the mighty brute spine on Beta to hopefully beat him. In the first phase alone he killed one of my carcass, so I cancelled the mission. Just look how low these guys are on health. Instead of wasting my time, I challenged Squidward in the open sea. He slapped my goonches, but they took the hits like champs, and inflicted him with their nasty venom. On Gamma level alone, I received an insane Ascendant mining drill. So of course I started the beta version of this mission. His hits were a bit stronger, but my guys were able to heal themselves, so I wasn't too worried. But in the final fight, he killed one of my goonches.
Quite a trophy.
Was the loot at least worth it, you might ask? No, not really.
You know who this motherfucker look like, low-key? Look!
I was looking around the Borg for a female Daedon, but couldn't find one, so let's go to the Arctic instead. There I bullied some Microraptors, cause why not? And within the freezing blizzard area I found a high-level female piggy, scooped her up, and knocked her out in a much safer spot. She tamed up quite quickly. After that I wanted to do another mission, and it chose searching the Frozone. Quite similar to another Borg hunt, but here I had to jump into the freezing lake to pick up some points. I tried to get rid of a wild catfish just to be safe, but it got rid of me instead. So I had to rescue Garuga out of the maw of this beast. At least I finished the rhino race on Alpha.
So do we get a victory lap?
I flew across the burning brimstone of a volcano and found something incredible. A high-level Acrocanthosaurus from Monsters and More. A monstrous, heavily armored giant of a theropod. Taming this gorgeous lady is quite simple actually. Make sure they are alone and drop this drugged meat I made a while ago on the floor. They will walk up to it and eat it, filling up 25% of the max torpor. But I had to do this 5 times until she was knocked out. After she was tamed, I did something funny. I dared to fight the brute Rex on Beta with Garuga. I just had the high grounds all the time and rained fire on his back. I killed him using this cheesy method, but his raptor minions had to wait because of the volcano interrupting.
Hunter 1, prey 0.
Day 60 I made even more drugged meat for male acro and upgraded my gear even more. I looked everywhere on the volcano until I found this male acro. Knocked him out and tamed him up. Now the main reason I wanted and needed these fellas was due to their wide range and heavy hitting attacks, which would be perfect for the final boss. While these 2 lovebirds did the nasty, I simply looked upon the unique modded weaponry and ammo types. The 2 Daedons I tamed had some fun in the corner of my house, and I set up another soul terminal to pick up their newborn. In the meantime I headed into the deep dark of the Borg forest for the mission Along Came Pollen. Another one of those missions where I had to follow a path and wait at checkpoints for a certain amount of time, while some friends walked up to me. I reached the toxic Borg trees where I had to break and collect 9 pollen. and kill some critters nearby. Once the 9th pollen was obtained, I had to run, or in my case fly, towards the finish line.
Nothing like a proper getaway.
Grinded most of this loot, and lastly received my 2nd health mutation. The very next day I did a long game pollen on beta level, but with nihil this time. Simply killed everything that got in my way. On the escape route I tried to simply dodge most of the enemies, but towards the very end I had enough and just plowed straight through every single target.
Nothing like a proper getaway.
At base I got rid of most mission loot, got a female heal pick with the good stats, and spent the rest of the day leveling some carcass to increase my hunting pack. In the astral planes I not only shot this cool scene, but I also hunted a giant space whale. Of course, halfway through the mission, meteors started to fall towards me, so I had to hide underneath the floating landscapes, continued the hunt, and burned the whale down to a crisp.
You bagged yourself quite a trophy.
I started the mission King of the Moon right after this one, where I tracked a giant tech rex and fought him. Although fighting ain't the right word, I just stood on a cliff, breathing fire upon him.
Now that's what I call a hunt.
I wanted to do a 3rd mission, but couldn't do that because of meteors. So I took a trip to the volcano and grabbed a small amount of oil from the oil pump. Day 64 was another brute day. I grabbed my carcass and proceeded to hunt down the brute Magmazone Beta. He set my pack ablaze, but they didn't have none of that and just shredded him with their sharp teeth. As you can already tell, all brute missions are the same. You fight oversized and overpowered versions of vanilla dinos, so kinda like every overhaul mod out there. I would have finished this mission a lot faster if my critters didn't get stuck on each other and the terrain. Anyway, the 2nd and 3rd phase were both won within a couple of moments.
Hunter 1, Prey 0.
Also killed the brute Magmazone Gamma, and even finished the galley race on alpha difficulty.
First place.
The next day I took some goonches with me into the depths of the sea, because I wanted to try and fight Moder on Gamma. On the way down to the terminal I had to fight against some giants, and an old fiend showed his face once more. Back on the server I saw how Beelzebub got attacked, so I threw out another goonch, whistled Beelzebub to me and swam to the surface as fast as possible. I'm pretty sure the red panda I had on my shoulder died shortly after. I simply netted and KO'd a high-level Pelagornis, which I named Schwalbe. I'm also certain that I can't enter the sea anymore, because I got disconnected 2 more times. I told 2 red pandas which I tamed many days ago to have kids, because I grew tired of losing them all the time. Whilst I waited for Kitty 2.0 to pop out her kids, I started another mission known as Summit Tour. The same kind of mission such as homers with the pouches, etc. I tried it on beta, but the Parasaur family I had to protect got killed just shortly in front of the finish line. So I tried and finished this mission on Gamma instead.
Test complete.
As well as challenging the King of Bleed, the Brute Allosaurus, on the easiest difficulty.
Hunter 1.
At the end, I simply adored the cute baby red pandas I've got. I made a bunch more trank ammo and used the upgrade station once more to make my rifle and fur gear better. Headed to the Winter Wonderland primarily to get a certain reptile, which I needed or more or less wanted for the final boss. After seeing many disappointing levels, I finally found a almost max level Ankylosaurus. A tough to kill mammal-like reptile with a fiery personality. I lured her out of the snowstorm and had to find an area where I could build the trap. Let her follow me a bit more. While she was busy with the Dodig, I netted her to the ground, laced structures, and proceeded to put her to sleep. But once asleep, I had to go back to the bog, grab the taming food, teleported back to her, and tamed her up as well. The main reason why I wanted one was due to their good HP, nasty bleed, high health regeneration, and the ability to burn down targets by simply tanking the physical hits, thanks to a unique flammable substance within their bloodstream, bursting into flames as soon as it touches air. Remember the Pelagornis? I tamed it back then because these guys can harvest organic polymer much more efficient than my moss shops. I also made extraordinary kibble as well as hatching a female acro with all the good stats. But for some reason I named her Titania for my own uses, instead of putting her aside for later mutation breeding. Anyway, I almost finished the point collection mission out of the frying pan on beta. But of course, the volcano erupted right before I could even enter the final zone. The next morning, I received a male and female acro that had all the good stats. It would take a while until they were fully grown, so I scooped up Beelzebub, because I wanted to use him to cheese my way through alpha bog fishing, which worked really well. He killed all the piranhas, whilst also gaining the aggro of all the salmons. That allowed me to catch massive bundles of these fellas. Mission loot was trash as always. Back at base, I sacrificed some babies to make Titania strong. Finally got a good stat male Daedon, killed up Titania, and tested her out. These fellas are the epitome of strong, possessing a powerful jaw slam attack, mighty foot stomps, and wide-range tailspin attacks. Perfect for the Master Controller. Titania and I went to the snowy mountains to see how she would perform against some brutes, and I chose the mission Dearly Departed. Now, all Arctic Brood missions are located within the Blizzard Zone, and doing any sort of missions here is downright wrong. But I still started the hunt, followed the deer's footprints, and smashed him into the floor. But towards the final encounter, I couldn't see his damn footprints anymore. Can you see them anywhere? But after walking back a bit, the deers showed up and I obliterated these vicious venison. After that, quickly scrapped the idea of doing another mission in this area. The blizzard got too intense to a point where I could barely see anything. On day 71 I was flying through the freezing cold blizzard in the search for a high-level male Anteo, and found a level 174. To my surprise, this man was stuck on a tree, so I didn't even need a trap. After he got tamed, I balled him up and barely finished the Sabertooth race mission on Alpha. Back home I introduced the Anteos to each other and they started some business. For the rest of this day I sacrificed some more penguins for their sweet, sweet polymer. Day 72 started really good with a nice damage mutation on an acro. I also got a good stat male Anteo, grinded even more penguins for the polymer. You can already tell how much I love this farm. Later on I, well, kind of failed homers with the pouches on beta. Titania was strong enough, just a bit too slow for the enemies. Anywho, I did another mission right away. Mount over matter. Literally the same as Along Came Pollen, but the final stage was a bit different. You see, I only had to collect 2 gold nuggets. And they are somewhere under these snow piles. But there were other things underneath those as well, such as microraptors or even danger badgers. I found the last nugget and made my way out of there. I spent the next day primarily within the snow biome and seeked out a brood mammoth. Not gonna lie, even on Gamma alone this thing was quite a tough cookie. But Titania easily managed to shatter every bone in its body. The loot, well, let's just say I'm not doing these missions for loot anymore. I'm doing these missions because I have to. Then I wanted to beat the brute deer on beta, but quickly gave up on that because I couldn't see its footprints even with negative gamma, which darkens the entire game. I looked upon the missions I could do, only to realize that I only needed 2 more to challenge the Master Controller. Lastly, I swapped the good stat acro with a mutated daughter, and on top of that, I got my first health mutation on an acro, and the 3rd health mutation on the carcass. I was gifted with yet another mutation, but it was a food mutation on a Daedon with a greenish belly, so I named him Emerald. He will be my main healer for the boss fight. I went towards the Space Gem terminal whilst flying through the void and across broken moon shards. Once there I got rid of some robotics and easily beat this mission on Gamma and Beta. This was one of the more fun missions in my opinion. I would now be able to fight the Master Controller on Gamma, but I wasn't ready yet. While I enlarged the breeding area a bit, I got a female Anteo with the good stats. Later on I simply gathered some tungsten which I got from the space rocks, but this stuff was just way too heavy for no reason. I used it to make a harvester mech, which is powered by robotic diesel. This mech low-key looks like that Ron Robosuit from the first Alien movie, and this thing got his name for a very good reason. It can harvest everything in large quantities and weighs pretty much nothing at the same time. End of the day I named my personal Anteo Jester. Took him out on a field trip the next day and he was no joke. Simply bleeding and burning our foes to the ground. Best part, he gave me insulation, meaning he kept me safe from even the coldest places in this world. I could easily strive across the dark corners of space without fur gear, thanks to Jester. I upgraded my flak gear and my shotgun to ascended level. Then grabbed my mech and gathered everything within the volcano, including coal, which has the same uses as spark powder. This thing was way better than my magma saw. The harvest continued the entire rest of day 77. Titania followed me around just to be safe. The harvester mech ain't really good at fighting, as their name suggests. I got blessed by yet another HP mutation on my carcass, and the second damage mutation on my acros. Things be looking bright for us, my friends. The rest of day 78, I just went into the volcano again and slept all insects near me. I did this during day 79 as well. But near nightfall I used some resources to craft myself an AK-47, the best friend of the Quiet Kid. Even a primitive one was pretty strong actually. I would upgrade this weapon later on. From day 80 till day 95 I simply did the same things over and over again. Went on numerous resource runs with a mech to specifically make ammunition and upgrade my gear to the highest level possible. Upgrading the AK-47 was the most annoying aspect since I had to make steel ingots. I didn't do any more missions because there was no point to it, raided the beaver dams as often as possible for pearls. At day 94 I was also done with mutation stacking and just combined the health and damage mutations on both acros and carcass. Day 95 the final breeders were fully grown and ready to make my army. By the way, the carcass had a whopping 5 health and 4 damage mutations, while the acros only had 2 damage and 1 health mutation on them. I hatched my boss army, named them, and also leveled Jester using some newborns. I then spent 3 days leveling all of my acros and carcass, and healed all of them at the end of day 98. Day 99 I finished the last few steps, made some soups and potions, which will help me out a lot in the boss arena. Also took a mind wipe tonic to readjust all of my stats. Made even more ammo and waited for the day to be over. Day 100. Everything led up to this very moment. Took a little walk through my base, saying goodbye to everything. Brought Jester and Emerald outside of my base and threw out my entire army in a big circle. I looked at HLNA and asked her to activate the teleport. Once there she warned me that this could get ugly.
Everything we did prepared us for this. But I'm detecting some recent edits in this part of the simulation.
And while the Master Controller responded, I ran up to the very front of the boss with my army. They were all on aggressive, so they just went feral as soon as the corrupted minions appeared. Me and Jester shredded through some minions. I consumed soups, jumped off Jester and collected keys on the ground. These are left whenever a minion dies. I could only carry 20 at max, but needed 80 in total for the codebreaker. In the first stage of this fight, nothing tragic happened. I just zoomed across the field and collected keys while my creatures crushed everything in their way. I put in the last keys, and we teleported straight to the second phase. Used the monologue montage of the boss to enable healing on Emerald. This phase was pretty much like the first one, but this time Rexes started to appear. I simply let my dinos have all of the fun. Ran through huge clusters of keys and put them in the codebreaker whenever I could. I had to defend myself a few times, placed the remaining keys in the codebreaker, and that's the end of stage 2. Again, the third stage was just like the other ones, and I finished that in like 6 minutes. The final phase was a different story. Now the Master Controller would actively fight and try to shock me, so I crawled under one of those bridges. But this time I only needed 40 keys to actually hurt this big floating head. But the drones were quite annoying though. I put away the required keys and just emptied an entire shotgun magazine into this purple menace. I now had to rinse and repeat this up to 4 times, but from now on, he will summon Gigas and Reapers. Those were no challenge for my boys though. HLNA broke his shield again, and I shot at him. Halfway there, and now it will get really nasty, because he might specifically target me with his lasers. My very first critter died while I collected keys wherever I could. Got shocked once, but managed not to die. put away keys, broke his shield, and filled his cheeks with bullets. Now it was time for the last run. I had 5 minutes left and ran as fast as I could. Dodged most of his minions, had to hide under this bridge because he lasered the entire area, ducked under one of his lasers, sprinted towards the code breaker, put in the last keys, and now it was time to end this corrupted maniac. While he glitched out of existence, he gave me a warning, but I did not care.
Be here, and you doom yourself, survivor. Wait till I find you in the world beyond.
With this, we actually made it, fellas. We won! Big thank you to everyone who watched till the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Consider to like and subscribe, it really does help me out. Have an absolutely amazing day. I'll see you guys in the next 100 Days adventure. Wherever that might take us.
Oh, that's not good at all.
Goodbye.
Well,